Welcome to the biology class. In this video, we will learn about three topics: reflex action, peripheral nervous system, and autonomic nervous system. Reflex action. We know the meaning of the word action. What is called as an action? What we do is an action. We write, we walk, we eat, we draw. These are actions. They are normal actions. Reflex action is an involuntary activity. It is a response. Reflex action is an involuntary response. It is a quick response. Reflex action is an automatic response. Reflex action is involuntary response, a rapid response, an automatic response to a stimulus. The heat is a stimulus. Sudden withdrawal of the hand on touching hot object is a response. Heat is a stimulus. It is an external stimulus. Sudden withdrawal of the hand is a response. This response is a quick response, automatic response. It is an involuntary response. It is not due to our thinking, so it is an involuntary response. It minimizes any damage to the body. The reflex action minimizes any damage to the body. There are two types of reflexes. They are simple or basic reflexes, acquired or conditioned reflexes. Acquired reflexes are gained after birth. Simple or basic reflexes are inbuilt reflexes. It is programmed in the brain before birth. These activities are unlearned responses, whereas acquired or conditioned reflexes are due to practice, due to a learning. Acquired response is a learned behavior. Many of the actions we perform in our day-to-day life are simple or basic reflexes. Let us see some examples. Winkling of eyes when any dust particles enter. When dust particles enter, without any planning, without any thinking, we winkle our eyes. Sneezing, coughing, yawning are some basic reflexes. These activities take place without our conscious effort. These activities take place without our thinking. We perform these activities without thinking. Acquired responses are due to practice. They are learned behavior. Let us see one example. On seeing the musical notes by the eyes, the hands touch the related keyboard keys. The eyes look at the musical note. The particular musical note seen by the eyes is touched by the hand. Without any thinking, this happens. This is because of practice. Most of the reflex actions are monitored and controlled by the spinal cord. They are called as spinal reflexes. Most of the reflex activities are done by the spinal cord. On touching the hot object, sudden withdrawal of the hand takes place. This is a quick response. This is monitored and controlled by spinal cord. The spinal cord is doing this activity. Receptors are sense organs. Receptors are found on sense organs. Skin has touch receptors, heat receptors, various other receptors. These receptors send the information to the spinal cord through the nerves. The spinal cord analyzes the information and sends command to the motor organ. Motor organs are effector organs. A muscle is an effector organ. The muscle works, so we move the hand. This takes place before the information reaches the brain. Before the information reaches the brain, the spinal cord creates a response. So the response is quick response. In between the receptor organ or sense organ and the motor organ, there are intermediate structures. All the structures involved in the reflex action form a reflex arc. The pathway taken by nerve impulse to complete reflex action is called reflex arc. Or the structures involved in the reflex action is called reflex arc. This is a cross section of spinal cord. We discussed about the cross section of spinal cord in the previous video. Skin is a receptor organ or sense organ. When it has heat receptors, when we touch a hot object, the heat receptors send information to the spinal cord through the sensory neuron. Sensory neuron carries information from sense organs to the spinal cord. Spinal cord analyzes the information and gives command. The command of the spinal cord passes through a relay neuron. From the relay neuron, the information passes through motor neuron. The motor neuron carries the information to motor organ. Muscle is a motor organ. The muscle is working, so we move the hand out. The sensory neuron carries sensory information to the spinal cord. Spinal cord analyzes the information and sends the command through relay neuron and motor neuron. So the muscle is working, our hands move. Heat receptors or pain receptors of the skin send the sensory information through sensory neuron. The sensory neuron carries information to the spinal cord. Spinal cord analyzes the information. It sends command through relay neuron or intermediate neuron. Then the command passes through motor neuron. Motor neuron carries information to the effector organ. A muscle is an effector organ or a gland is an effector organ. The activity is done by the effector organ. These structures involved in the reflex activity form reflex arc. Nerves arising from the brain and nerves arising from the spinal cord form peripheral nervous system. Brain and spinal cord form the central nervous system. The nerves arising from brain and spinal cord form peripheral nervous system. Spinal nerves are called as the nerves from spinal cord are called as spinal nerves. The nerves arising from brain are called as cranial nerves. The spinal nerves and cranial nerves form peripheral nervous system. There are 12 pairs of cranial nerves and 31 pairs of spinal nerves form a peripheral nervous system. Spinal nerves have dorsal sensory root and ventral motor root that we learned in the previous video. The sensory root carries information towards the spinal cord and motor root carries information away from the spinal cord. The motor root carries command for the working of an organ. Since the spinal nerves have two roots, the spinal nerves are mixed nerves. In peripheral nervous system, there are 12 pairs of cranial nerves. Some of the cranial nerves are sensory nerves and some other nerves are motor nerves. Let us see one example for sensory nerve. Optic nerve. Optic nerve carries visual information from eye to the brain. The visual information is the sensory information. Nerves carrying sensory information are sensory nerves. Sensory nerves carry sensory information from sense organs to the brain. Some of the cranial nerves are motor nerves. Example, the nerves connected to the eye muscles. The nerve connected to the eye muscle brings command for the working of the eye muscle. So the eyeball rotates. Some of the cranial nerves are sensory nerves, some others are motor nerves. But the spinal nerves are mixed nerves. Autonomic nervous system is called as visceral nervous system because this autonomic nervous system controls the automatic functioning of visceral organs. The internal organs are called as visceral organs. The autonomic nervous system regulates the function of internal organs and control the involuntary functions of visceral organs. Autonomic nervous system controls the involuntary functions of visceral organs. What are involuntary functions? When the working of some organs are not under our thinking, the working is involuntary. Sympathetic system and parasympathetic system are the two components of autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system has two components. They are sympathetic system and parasympathetic system. These two systems work oppositely. They work antagonistic to each other. They work oppositely to maintain a balance in the functioning of internal organs. These two systems maintain a steady state in the functioning of internal organs. Sympathetic system and parasympathetic system work oppositely to maintain balance. Let us see two examples. The parasympathetic system stimulates the secretion of saliva, but sympathetic system inhibits the flow of saliva. Parasympathetic system contracts urinary bladder, but sympathetic system inhibits the urinary bladder contraction. These two systems, that is parasympathetic system, sympathetic system. Parasympathetic system, sympathetic system are the components of autonomic nervous system. They work oppositely to maintain balance so that the internal organs work normally. This is the end of Unit 15.